Hello everyone, Prime here, and my god, do you guys know how hot it is right now? It's like 30 degrees over here in the UK. I'm not sure how hot it is in other parts of the world, or if I'm even justified making a video about how hot it is right now, but I'm not a heat person. Usually heat makes sure that I will just not do much of anything. Hence why you've not been seeing too many videos recently, or the frequency of the videos hasn't exactly been, peachy. You know, there was a certain Mayan civilization that went out of business, to put it in a nice way. They didn't have enough drinking water and eventually just, well, perished. They made sacrifices to Chuck, the rain god. We all know who Chuck is, right? And Chuck was pretty much just like, nah, I'm not giving you any rain. And then they were just, well, kaput. Do you know what the Egyptians did to beat the heat? They relied on the Nile. Now, okay, technically, relying on the Nile instead of good old-fashioned rainwater was a bit more than just beating the heat. It was also gambling in a sense to make sure that you don't, run out of water and then die of thirst or something terrible like that. But relying on the Nile for the ancient Egyptians was risky business, and I'm leading it on to be. See, not only was there a risk that they wouldn't necessarily have enough water to provide for their crops and feed themselves with good food, but there was also the danger of flooding. Because the Nile was, it had its own attitude. It was its own man. You could just tell the Nile to give you drinkable water and nourish your crops and let it be a handy-dandy thing to help you out all the time. No. The Nile had a mood of its own, and if it decided to crush your crops, well, your crops were screwed. Also bear in mind that these crops were supposed to provide nourishment for a fair amount of time, good amount of months to come, perhaps even a year sort of time period. So imagine losing all of those crops thanks to some bad gambling. You'd be pretty depressed. And there was also a god of the Nile. His name was Happy. Reminds me of a character from that one anime that I never finished because it was... Anyways, before I damage too many souls with my opinions on that, when the Nile first came into existence, it actually transported water from a really far distance away. It had to go past the heavens and even the underworld. So yeah, think about that for a second. The Egyptians believed that they were drinking waters, or, the Nile being one of the fairly important for their society, had to travel all the way through the underworld. That seems kind of spooky. I don't know, I'd be pretty concerned about what I'd be putting into my body that way. Then again, if there's no other water and you're going to die anyway and you value your life, then I suppose it doesn't matter too much, does it? As you might expect, this god had quite a lot of power in Egyptian society, or the Egyptians believed he had so much power, considering the fact that, well, yes, what we just talked about. Meaning that he was very popular. He got all the sort of tributes, the nice prayers and all of that stuff from the Egyptian people, because, very bad stuff would happen if he was ticked off for any reason whatsoever. Or so they would believe. Now, the Egyptians took advantage of those times when the Nile would flood over, specifically around what is summertime to us, like June until September. And during this time, heavy rains and a few other things caused some water to fall down into the Nile and, well, cause flooding. Now, as I said, it was a bit of a gamble because flooding could destroy your crops, your homes, essentially mess up society a little bit. But it could also help you feed crops, collect water, and, as I said, help you survive. So, the Nile giveth and the life taketh away sort of situation. Reeds that grew near the Nile actually helped the Egyptians to create plenty of things, from paper to boats, and of course to catch food, like fish for instance, to help them eat and stuff like that. So overall, the Nile was pretty helpful to them and probably helped them keep cool during those warm months. Shame I don't have a nice supply of river that may or may not perhaps kill me, but could easily help to keep me cool during these warm months, but what can you do? By far the most annoying thing about summer and just the heat in general, though, sweat. See, sweat's pretty annoying for me, because I don't really start off sweating immediately when I'm super warm, which is very annoying for me. It's like a bunch of people around me will be super sweaty, and I'll just be dry as a bone, cooking away in the heat. But when it's most inconvenient and when I'm at the height of discomfort, that's when my body decides to perspirate. As annoying as this is for me, I'm sure it's not as nearly annoying as it probably would have been for Emir, because when he decided to sweat, he actually gave birth to baby giants. Is there like a word for that? Like similar to piglets? giantlets? Let's call them giantlets. I'm not going to Google that. But why does the sun have to be such a dick about doing its duties? You know, being so warm and just causing so much discomfort. Well, the Aztecs had a god called Tonatiuh, and, well, he had a bit of a justified reason to be a bit of a dick. See, just for this god to even be born, had to be a bunch of sacrifices on the god's end just to get him into existence. And, you know, to usher in his age, there was a bit of a cataclysmic, apocalyptic event that ushered in his time, according to myths, and yeah, so he's already kind of shrouded in this sort of edgy background. And then there was the fact that he pretty much, after completing his daily tasks, which consisted of making his journey across the sky each day, which took a lot of effort, he then had to die pretty much every day. So yeah, you can imagine how this chap would be pretty edgy. But to convince him to actually complete these rounds and to get him to essentially agree to die every day, he needed certain sacrifices. You know, the gods needed to feed him with something, and this is Aztec society we're talking about, so human sacrifices, blood sacrifices, things like hearts and organs and things that you probably wouldn't want to give up, or at least would prefer to keep inside of your body. Then again, we are talking about a society that was pretty okay with human sacrifices to the point where it was kind of just commonplace. Or at least, it was very much acceptable. On the bright side, he's depicted as being some sort of eagle, so there's that. Eagles are kind of cool, right? Now, depending on what I actually ended up calling this video, you'll probably want to know how you actually beat the heat. Simple answer is, just stick your head in the fridge. Alright, so you reached the end of the video. Cool, I hope that you actually managed to learn something, or at least enjoyed the video enough to make it to this point, which means you'd be listening to this. So, yes, go ahead and like the video if you enjoyed it, and of course subscribe, and until the next video, before I actually do that, there should be a card telling you some video ideas I have planning to do next. Click 1 to tell me which one you actually want me to post next, and I'll just put all my energy into actually working on that and getting that next. Right, till the next video, have a very good day. I'm Prime, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.